House Republicans are again wasting my money and your money with another hearing that is meant only to placate the conspiracy theorists and the extremist partisans and the liars who are committed to making the case that every element of government has been weaponized against them, that Joe and Hunter Biden and the so-called Biden crime family, if you can imagine such a term, are being given special treatment and certainly should have been arrested long ago. And they have done it so many times before. You know, they said the DOJ has been weaponized and they did a hearing and the hearing didn't prove that, but my taxpayer money and your taxpayer money went down the toilet. They said social media has been weaponized against right-wingers or whatever, and they did those hearings, and it turns out it wasn't true, and more of my taxpayer money and your taxpayer money was flushed down the toilet. They said we're going to do a series of hearings about crime in, quote, Democrat cities. They did one in New York. They said there would be more. The New York one backfired spectacularly, and we haven't heard another word about it for months. And now it's the IRS whistleblower hearings. CNN, second IRS whistleblower goes public at House Oversight hearing about the Hunter Biden probe. There are two whistleblowers, alleged whistleblowers, whose testimony alleging that the Hunter Biden criminal probe was mishandled has ignited a firestorm among House Republicans. One of the two whistleblowers speaking for the first time publicly, Joseph Ziegler, a 13-year IRS special agent with the Criminal Investigation Division. So listen, this guy showed up and he said, it appeared to me, based on what I experienced, that the U.S. attorney in Delaware in our investigation into Hunter Biden was constantly hamstrung, limited, and marginalized by DOJ officials as well as other U.S. attorneys. All right. I mean, listen, this is the guy's opinion and he deserves to be heard. Whether we need these massive hearings at huge taxpayer expense where they make essentially no headway in proving a damn bit of wrongdoing by anybody are really a waste of time. Now, I'm going to start with something. Let me explain what I'm going to show you first. Marjorie Taylor Greene, to try to get attention and to try to score some political point, what point it is, I don't know, actually held up censored versions of the Hunter Biden penis pictures. Now, I'm going to play a clip. I'm going to tell you in advance that the pictures have big black boxes over the sensitive elements. That being said, you could argue they are still graphic. They're completely compliant with any broadcast standard. So everybody relax, but they aren't fully blurred. Okay, here we go. Marjorie Taylor Greene putting up these large blow-ups of Hunter Biden's sex pictures. This is what the big thing they wanted published on Twitter was, that Twitter wouldn't publish. And Jamie Raskin says, should we be displaying this stuff?
Chairman,
of Hunter Biden
Chairman,
making
time,
sex, excuse me, this is my time, making
okay.
pornography.
Should we be displaying this, Mr. Chairman, in the committee?
The lady's time's expired and went 2.5 minutes over.
Chairman,
If
can I
Mr.
have a point of
Bufume
order?
wants the 2.5 minutes, he can have it. If he wants to yield some to Ms. Ocasio-Cortez when she goes, she can have it.
Okay. So really the height of, maturity and relevance, as you can imagine, this was basically the signal for how this entire hearing was going to go. And we're going to go through some other elements of this. It seems really that the big bombshell is that Hunter Biden isn't good at taxes. And Hunter Biden has negotiated a plea deal and it's being adjudicated. So why that's newsworthy or worthy of hearings, I don't know. Here is our friend Jamie Raskin indicating you're not going to hear evidence of wrongdoing in these hearings.
At today's hearing, we're going to hear about wrongdoing by Hunter Biden, who's pleading guilty on 2 tax charges and a gun charge next week. We'll hear about the back and forth among investigators, prosecutors, and a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney, over a dozen people who spent 4 years investigating the president's son. We'll hear about how they disagreed on investigative steps and what criminal charges to bring, all normal stuff in government investigations that doesn't usually lead to a congressional hearing. But one thing you will not hear today is any evidence of wrongdoing by President Joe Biden or his administration. Like every other try by our colleagues to concoct a scandal about President Biden, this one is a complete and total bust. In fact, the ongoing case that the majority invites us to interfere with today is actually a striking illustration of the success of the American system of independent prosecutors operating under the rule of law and outside the realm of the kind of political influence my colleagues are trying to exercise today.
Jamie Raskin is spot on. Let me simplify what he is saying. He's saying two things. He's saying, number one, we have all these hearings. You're not going to hear any evidence of wrongdoing by Joe Biden or his administration. You're going to hear about Hunter Biden. You will hear who is not involved with the government. Remember, Jared Kushner was involved with the government. Ivanka was involved with the government. Hunter Biden's not involved with the government, the administration. You'll hear about him. And there's going to be no wrongdoing by Joe Biden. And number two, if anything, we have evidence that the separation of powers worked because we have the DOJ under Joe Biden successfully prosecuting the president's son. This is evidence of success, not of failure. This is evidence of impartiality, not bias. But they don't care, and they want to keep wasting and wasting and wasting your money and my money. Going back to Jamie Raskin, continuing to really get to Republicans at the heart of what this is and saying, listen, if you're this worried about the IRS not doing its job, then go along with the additional funding we want for the IRS, which, of course, Republicans are against.
If my GOP colleagues think that the treatment of millions of tax scofflaws, or even the handful who face criminal prosecution like Hunter Biden, is too lenient, I invite them to join us Democrats in supporting the $80 billion in funding for the IRS that we passed in the Inflation Reduction Act last year. This money will enable the IRS to make long overdue improvements in customer service, but will also enable the agency to restore lost capabilities and enforcement to identify and prosecute tax cheats. But the very first thing House Republicans did this Congress was vote to rescind that funding while disparaging these future IRS employees who will do the same kind of work today's witnesses do. Senator Cruz called them Biden's shadow army. Senator Grassley said they will be going around.
All right, you get the point. The point is, if you're really that worried that the IRS isn't doing its job, that it's underpowered, that it's under-resourced, that it's not going after people in the way that it should, why are you against increased funding to the IRS, which is something Democrats have been asking for a while? A very good point. Now let's go to some of the cartoonish moments from these hearings. And remember, this is your taxpayer money. They're not doing a hearing on how to end hunger, which we could do. They're not doing a hearing on how to get health care to everybody, which we could do. They're not doing a hearing on how to end homelessness, which we could do. They are wasting your money and my money to argue that Hunter Biden isn't good at paying his taxes and presenting not a shred of evidence that Joe Biden or his administration did a damn thing wrong. Here is James Comer saying that the Biden family and businesses and associates and their companies have received $10 million from foreign nationals and related companies. One aspect is that's a lot of entities and only $10 million. And number two, you won't hear any actual evidence of wrongdoing by Joe Biden or his administration.
For Biden family associates and suspicious activity reports generated by the Bidens and their associates' high dollar or foreign business transactions. What these records reveal is astonishing.
Is it?
The Bidens created over 20 shell companies, most of which were created when Joe Biden was vice president. Bank records so far show the Biden family, their business associates, and their companies received over $10 million from foreign nationals and related companies. A lot of this money poured in while Joe Biden was vice president. Despite creating many companies after vice president took office, the Biden family used associates companies to receive millions of dollars from foreign companies in China, Ukraine, and Romania. After foreign companies sent money to business associates companies, the Bidens then received incremental payments over time to various different bank accounts.
Okay. Now, some of what he says is not true as far as there is any evidence for. Now, is it possible they just haven't found the evidence yet? Sure. But how many years are they going to investigate the exact same thing? Secondly, when you cast such a wide net and say that business associates of the family of Joe Biden have received money, it's not exactly damning. And of course, he has not even asserted evidence of any criminality by anybody, never mind the Biden administration or Joe Biden himself. Is there cronyism and nepotism and handshake deals? Of course, Jared and Ivanka were at the heart of it as part of Trump's administration. Does whatever they did excuse potential wrongdoing by anybody associated with Joe Biden? Of course not. But it is getting embarrassing how long they've been investigating the same thing and how slippery they are. James Comer's little rant there, if you're not paying attention, might sounds like something wrong was done, but he is not actually asserting any criminality or wrongdoing. Often when they do assert it, they do it without evidence. In this case, he's not even actually asserting criminality. At another moment during this hearing, IRS so-called whistleblower Gary Shapley says he's been painted by a partisan brush in his motivations here, and that's not good. Then he calls Chuck Grassley the patron saint of whistleblowers, which sounds pretty partisan to me.
For 25 years, including 5 years with the Department of Justice Tax Division. I'm also grateful for Empower Oversight, a nonprofit whistleblower group whose president, Tristan Levitt, was previously nominated by President Biden to the Merit Systems Protection Board and unanimously confirmed by the United States Senate. While some have tried to paint me with a partisan brush because this charitable organization employs some former staffers to GOP members on Capitol Hill.
That's not the only reason why he's been painted with a partisan brush, of course. It's also that he has been working directly and exclusively with Republicans to try to frame the Biden administration as having committed some kind of obstructive or illegal act, absent any evidence that took place.
Their expertise developed working for the patron saint and whistleblower, Senator Chuck Grassley, has been invaluable. Meanwhile, the Biden family attorneys appear to be representing Hunter Biden, President Biden, and the Department of Justice, and they are not working for free. It has been reported in public sources that there is a large fund paying for legal fees for Biden family attorneys.
Yeah. The patron saint of whistleblowers, Chuck Grassley. Hard to imagine why this guy's been painted with a partisan brush. Then we go to a friend of the show, Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy, who makes the point that a whole bunch of the alleged I'm struggling to even find the right language to discuss this. It's the alleged allegations against Joe Biden, because they're not even really allegations if you listen to them. Much of what is being described allegedly as an allegation is stuff that happened when Joe Biden was not even president of the United States. If you committed a crime, it doesn't matter what the status was. But they want to talk about the appearance of impropriety in some of these cases. They are off script.
You're talking about how the election cycle is delaying decisions by the prosecution. And it turns out that the delay in the election cycle was happening at a time when Joe Biden was not the president.
I'm sorry, sir. That's in Special Agent Ziegler's transcript. That's why I couldn't find it.
So, Mr. Ziegler and you shared concerns about delays related to the election cycle. But at that time, Joe Biden was not the president.
I believe at that time he was the nominee for president.
Now, why is that so important? They want to argue that the IRS and other investigative agencies under Biden were obstructing and slow walking and delaying investigations. And what Raja Krishnamurthy is pointing out is that for much of the time being described, Biden was not the president of the United States. He wasn't the vice president of the United States. He was the Democratic Party's nominee for president. This 2 minutes that I'm playing for you right now is the epitome of why this entire thing is a ridiculous waste of your taxpayer money and my taxpayer money.
But, well, he was not the president, was he? It's just a simple question, sir.
Can you rephrase what time?
Joe Biden was not the president. in the presidential primaries in 2020.
Correct. That is correct.
Sir, finally, Mr. Shapley, you said that warrants were ready as soon as April 2020 to begin searching for records, but actions weren't taken with regard to those warrants. Again, Joe Biden was not the president in April 2020, was he?
So I'm confused by your line of questioning. We're talking about an election to which now President Biden was a part of. So he didn't have to be the president to have election meddling.
No, but the question is this. Was he the...
Are they this dumb or are they pretending? Honestly, what do you think? Do they realize that they have no argument if they are arguing about actions taken by the DOJ and IRS, etc., when Donald Trump was president? Are they stupid or are they pretending?
President at that time in April 2020.
It's been asked and answered.
And what's the answer, sir?
The
answer is yes or no?
Is no.
Thank you. Thank you. I yield back.
Mr. Chairman, may I finish?
Please, you may answer the question.
So, it's clear that he was not the president, but an election is for the purpose of electing a president.
That's true.
And Joe Biden at the time was a nominee for president of the United States. Therefore, the election clauses with DOJ policy took place.
So all of Trump's people were working to help Hunter Biden be shielded from prosecution. Why? Because they were turning on Trump or what? It doesn't make any sense, and my money is being flushed down the toilet, and so is yours when they could be dealing with real issues. Here's one last clip. Just a reminder, this is James Comer now. This is the same Burisma stuff, just recycled for a different audience.
During our investigation, our committee became aware through whistleblower disclosures provided to Senator Chuck Grassley that the FBI had an unclassified record that details an extortion and bribery scheme involving then Vice President Biden and a Burisma executive.
Okay. I'm not even going to play more. That is the same story for which they claim to have a whistleblower who they couldn't find for 3 years, for which they claim to have tapes that they couldn't get their hands on, nor could they guarantee their authenticity, for which they assert criminality, but can cite no laws that were broken nor evidence for that those laws were broken. This is the same thing, just recycled. That's all this is. And our money is being flushed when we could be dealing with poverty, we could be dealing with climate, we could be dealing with any of the things that would be more important. We should be furious. We should vote them out. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I appreciate that. Did you know that anyone in the world can very easily access a ton of data about you online? Data brokers collect huge amounts of data about everything you do on your phone, your computer, where you go, what you look at. But we recently learned that government agencies like the FBI have also been buying a ton of this data from data brokers just to keep track of people without needing a court order. Criminals can also use the information to target you. Ad companies and political consultants can buy it and try to influence you, but you can stop it. Our sponsor, Incogni, is an affordable service that specializes in getting your data removed from these sites. Incogni will send data removal requests to the major data brokers. They are required by law to remove it upon request. If your information stays online, Incogni will just follow up with them about removing it. It's that simple. And you will be kept updated every step of the way so you know what's going on. What Incogni can accomplish is amazing. I use it myself, and my audience gets 60% off. Go to incogni.com/Pacman and use the code Pacman. The link is down below.